everyone! Tonight we're going to be tackling this next Drawtober piece. This is going to be the prompt folklore. I will go into a little bit about this in the voiceover, but for now this is the lines that we have to work with. Again, these are printed onto watercolor paper. So yeah, we're going to be using mixed media again, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do with this, so we are just going to wing it as per usual. So alright, let's get going. Okay everyone, we've got a bit of a longer video today, even though this footage has been sped up a butt ton because this piece took me forever. Before we start talking about the piece though, I just wanted to go into the changes you've probably noticed with the channel. I am in the process of changing the channel's graphics to go along with the new name, Ghostly Goat Illustrations. I've been thinking about changing things up around here, around the channel for a while now. It's mainly because I noticed that there's another art channel with the name Sparrow Arts, and I definitely want to separate from that and make something that's more unique and more me. I settled on Ghostly Goat Illustrations after mulling it over and finally decided to take the plunge. It was a plus that it wasn't taken on Instagram either, so I'm able to homogenize my handle on my main socials, which is really nice. I want to eventually make a little ghost goat mascot and have it as an intro for the channel, and I also still need to change up the banner. Hopefully that'll come soon. I've been wanting to do this since shortly after I started this channel, and since we're still quite young, I figured the best time to do it is now. So yeah. Now on to today's piece. I'm a few days late getting this one done thanks to work, and the prompt has already expired, but I was really looking forward to working on this piece. Once again, that prompt is folklore. And with that, I decided to select two monsters from my state's folklore. For being such an old state, I was really surprised to see how slim the pickings were with our legends, but alas, I found two that I thought I'd really enjoy drawing: the BOO HAG and the Lizard Man. I couldn't choose which one I wanted to draw more, so I guess that kind of translated from an internal conflict to an actual artistic choice, as we see here in our piece. Here we have the initial thumbnail for this piece, which I scanned into my computer, lightened up, and printed out onto cardstock so I could tighten up the sketch. This was one of those rare times where the thumbnail was pretty much exactly what was in my head, and it was really easy to work with as a result. It didn't take long to finish rendering the lines at all, so once that was done, I scanned it in a second time and printed it out on watercolor paper. As you might have noticed, the printer ink did bleed noticeably this time around, but I found that I didn't really mind because it gave the lines a softer look, which is something I do tend to go for in my digital work and would like to replicate as much as possible in my traditional work. Now, if you're not a cryptid and creepypasta enthusiast like me, you're probably wondering, what the heck are the BOO HAG and the Lizard Man? Well, I'll quickly summarize the Wikipedia descriptions for you. The BOO HAG is a monster from Gullah culture who preys on human victims by sucking out their breath while they're asleep. If that's not creepy enough, I got more for ya! Once a BOO HAG has selected a victim, they can enter their house through the tiniest crevice or hole, which is only topped on the nightmare induction scale by the fact that these lovely ladies have no skin. So just imagine for a second wandering around your house at night and seeing this skinless woman materializing or squeezing herself through a little hole in the wall right before your eyes. Just picture that for a little bit. Okay. Luckily, and I use that word loosely, the BOO HAG's victims generally don't wake up while she's feeding, and she usually leaves them alive to feed off another night, with the only symptoms being shortness of breath and fatigue. However, should the victim wake up and begin to struggle, the BOO HAG will proceed to rip off their skin to wear as a disguise. Wow, I think this was the most gruesome of the legends here, and naturally, I gotta love it for that. Now on to the more recent addition to my state's folklore. We have the Lizard Man. First sighted in the 1980s, the Lizard Man is largely regarded as a hoax, but as cryptids often do, he seems to have amassed a cult following for some reason I'm not quite clear on. A few of the sightings mention that the Lizard Man He likes to attack cars, so apparently old boy has some automotive trauma somewhere in his past. Did he watch one of his lizard siblings get squashed by a car? Is he protesting climate change in his own unique way? Did his parents get a bad deal from a shady car salesman? The world may never know. Descriptions of the lizard man pin him down as 7 feet tall with wet green skin, 3 fingers, and snake-like scales, which I ditched in favor of something more crocodilian in this piece. There isn't much of a story behind the lizard man's origins or motives, and tales of him appear to be mostly of the "yup, we seen him, he's out there" variety. So there you have it, an old legend meets a new legend, and they're here to duke it out. Why? Because it just looks cool, that's why. I can't think these two would ever cross paths if they actually existed, as he's into cars and she's into human life breath, but you know, cryptids don't often make much sense anyway, so who's anyone to criticize? So, up until this point, I've mainly been using my usual watercolors, which you've heard me mention many a time before and will be linked down below if you're new here. But after I got to where I thought there wasn't anything more for me to do with my regular pan watercolors, I noticed my Arteza watercolor brush pens sitting on my shelf, forgotten until that very moment. I decided to pull them out on a whim to see how they do in this piece, as I wasn't entirely happy with the saturation of the colors I was getting. I found that these brush pens look best in this piece when I dip them in water first. You can use them without water, but the lines I was getting were just too hard for my liking and I wanted to blend out the edges. I did attempt to blend out the color a little more with a regular watercolor brush, but once these colors are down, they do not like to move. I think I'd like to experiment with these a little more when I can dedicate a full piece to them, but I was just too nervous about ruining this piece after I've already come so far by using a tool I hadn't used recently and had little experience with. I ended up doing quite a bit of colored pencil work on this one after that, as again, I just wasn't getting the colors I wanted from the watercolor. I did struggle with the pencils too because I knew what I wanted, but I just wasn't sure how to get there and what colors to blend to arrive in this desired location. So yeah, I floundered around a bunch, but made a few mistakes, but I learned. That seems to be a running theme with my traditional work lately. I have a hard time not experimenting with stuff, but I'm slowly getting into a groove with what I like to work with best. One thing I realized I'm missing in my arsenal is a good sharpener, because I feel like I just can't get the pencil sharp enough to give me the crisp, fine details I was wanting to put in this piece. So if you happen to have any fancy pencil sharpener suggestions, please do let me know. Another thing I wanted to mention that I tried in this piece is the colorless blender for these pencils. I found that it did help make the transitions between colors noticeably smoother, and it also gets rid of some of the little white spaces that tend to happen in colored pencil. I don't know if there's a term for that, but yeah. Also, I forgot to say earlier that the muscle structure on the BOO HAG is not intended to be accurate. I did loosely reference a muscle chart, but I got bored with that really fast and decided to just wing it, because ain't nobody got time to try and make sense of all the connections of a meat machine when you're just trying to have fun. So after using the colored pencil with this, the lines were really starting to disappear, so I used one of my sepia tone liners to try and tackle that. I actually ended up going over some of these areas again with a black liner just for the sake of contrast, and also the sepia liner didn't seem to get along very well with the waxiness of the colored pencil. And after having learned from the Hellcat piece I did a couple videos ago, I opted not to put too much detail into the lizard man's right arm. I wanted it to look far away, so I purposely kept it light and less detailed. The fact that the water washed away some of the printer ink also worked to my advantage in this case, because it helped make that arm as well as his tail look even less detailed. Always a silver lining, I suppose. getting close to the end of this piece, I pulled out my gouache to try and get some more contrast and color in here. I felt like the smoky bits of the BOO HAG weren't quite the color I had envisioned, which actually reminds me of another thing I forgot. I just wanted to give a shout out to the inspiration for her design, which were the witch from Left 4 Dead, as well as the super creepy floating witches from World of Warcraft's Drustvar quest storyline, which, guys, going off on a tangent here, but I loved that storyline so much. It was so creepy and my favorite area to quest in by far, but yeah, fangirl moment over, back to the art. Once again, the gouache came through for your girl. It gave me some of that contrast I was missing, and using the same colors on the BOO HAG and the lizard man helped tie the piece together some more. I also attempted to use my Poscas in some areas of the BOO HAG smoke, but yeah, that didn't work out too well. I just didn't have the right color for it, and I wish I hadn't used them, but hey, once again, we're learning here. After I used the gouache, I kind of felt like I probably overworked this piece. I felt like it needed something and I wasn't really sure what that was, so I just kept doing stuff I didn't actually need to do while I molded over instead of just, walking away. So yeah, pro tip, if you feel like your piece is missing something and you can't figure out what it is, just walk away. For your own good, for the good of your art, just walk away and come back with fresh eyes later. You'll get to see this in our final close-up. I didn't get it on camera, but after I left this to sit overnight and came back to it, I did end up adding a little bit more colored pencil to the smoky bits, which was a really minor thing, but I do think it helped to get to where I wanted this piece to be. And here we have it for this week's video. I'm hoping to have a bonus video up sometime this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. But as for this one, don't forget to leave a like and or a comment if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to be alerted for future uploads if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, joining me on this creepy prompt. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on the next one.